Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've got quite a stack of sources today, really timely stuff actually, that paints a picture of India's evolving landscape. You're touching on national security, environmental conservation, and some pretty tough social challenges on the ground.
Absolutely. And it's quite fitting, isn't it? Today, July 26th, marks the 26th anniversary of the Kargil War's conclusion, and it's also World Mangrove Day.
Exactly. So let's dive right into that first piece. It looks at India's security strategy, starting way back with Kargil, and bringing us right up to the present day.
That's the one. It really lays out a significant transformation in thinking and capability.
Okay, so Kargil, May to July 1999. Many of us remember it as India's first sort of live televised war, quite a shock to the system. But the force connects it directly to something very recent, the Pahalgam attack in April 2025, and then India's response, Operation Sindoor, in May. So what's the thread here? What's changed so dramatically in India's security approach?
Well, the change is profound. Kargil was a real wake-up call. You have to remember the context. India had just gone nuclear in May '98. Pakistan followed suit.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have two nuclear neighbors, and India was under sanctions, coalition government, a bit of a tentative period, you could say.
Right, and wasn't there a big intelligence failure?
Huge. That was a major lesson from Kargil. Neither the military nor civilian intelligence really saw that large-scale infiltration coming. It highlighted massive gaps in, well, real-time intelligence, aerial surveillance, you name it.
And equipment, too, I imagine, fighting at those altitudes.
Definitely. There was a lack of specialized high-altitude gear, not enough artillery support initially, problems with real-time communication. It exposed quite a few deficiencies. But interestingly, Kargil also showed something else. That limited war was possible between nuclear states if, and it's a big if, escalation was managed carefully. The nuclear overhang didn't prevent conventional conflict entirely.
Okay, so a tough set of lessons learned. How did India adapt structurally after that? What changed on the ground, organizationally?
There was a pretty comprehensive overhaul. Post-Kargil, we saw new agencies pop up, the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, in 2002, and the National Technical Research Organization, NTRO, in 2004, focused more on tech intelligence. Coordination improved, too. The National Security Council Secretariat, NSCS, and the Joint Intelligence Committee got a revamp, and the post of a permanent national security advisor, the NSA, became much more central in coordinating everything.
And the military itself?
Big changes there, too. The evolution of doctrines like Cold Start, the idea of rapid, limited incursions, a much stronger focus on mountain warfare, including raising a dedicated mountain corps, and a big push for jointness between the services, leading eventually to the Chief of Defense Staff, the CDS, in 2019, and this ongoing move towards integrated theater commands.
Right, the integration efforts.
Exactly. And alongside all this, a major drive for modernization and self-reliance. Think Rafale jets, Apache, Chinook helicopters, the S-400 missile systems, and of course the BrahMos cruise missiles. It's been a sustained effort.
So a real top-to-bottom rebuild. But for years, India's response to terrorism often felt, well, reactive. How did this new posture eventually translate into dealing with cross-border terror?
You're right. There was a period where responses seemed slower, maybe more measured. Think about the IC-814 hijacking, the Parliament attack, even 26/11 in Mumbai. While devastating, they didn't immediately result in, let's say, imposing heavy direct costs across the border.
Yeah, that perception was definitely there.
The real shift, the strategic turning point, arguably started after the Uri attack in 2016. Those surgical strikes sent a new message. Then after Pulwama in 2019, the Balakot airstrikes actually crossing into Pakistani airspace, that was another major escalation, a new signal.
And Pahalgam takes it even further.
Pahalgam seems to set a completely new threshold. Operation Sindoor striking 9 alleged terror bases and 11 military air bases deep inside Pakistan, reportedly including that BrahMos strike on Nirkan base hitting a nuclear storage facility. That's an unambiguous statement. The message seems to be, the era of restraint is over. Any future attacks will face severe consequences.
Wow. So it's moved from reactive defense to proactive deterrence, imposing cost directly. A fundamental shift in the strategic calculus, even with the nuclear element always in the background. That's quite the transformation.
It really is. A clear signal of intent backed by enhanced capability.
Okay, let's shift gears now from, hard security to environmental security, which is just as vital. As we mentioned, today is also World Mangrove Day, and our next source has this fascinating story about MS Swaminathan, Apparently, he almost single-handedly put mangroves on the map globally. Before him, they were just seen as swamps.
That's pretty much the narrative, yes.
Yeah.
It's an incredible story of vision. Before the late 80s, mangroves were often just seen as, well, marshy land waiting for conversion, as the article puts it. Lots of clear felling. Local communities understood their value, but wider perception, not so much.
So what was the turning point? How did he change that?
The pivotal moment seems to be a 1989 conference in Tokyo on climate change. Swaminathan directly proposed using mangroves to manage climate change impacts in coastal zones. He connected the dots. Rising sea levels leading to saline intrusion, threatening agriculture, and rising sea temperatures leading to more intense cyclones, causing devastation.
Linking them directly to climate adaptation. Clever.
Exactly. His vision wasn't just ecological, it integrated economics, equity. He even spurred research into transferring salt-tolerant genes from mangroves to crops like rice. And he co-created the Charter for Mangroves, which got incorporated into the World Charter for Nature at the big UN Earth Summit in Rio in 1992. That charter is still a key reference point globally. ISME itself did a huge amount, assessments, workshops, the World Mangrove Atlas, all aimed at shifting that perception from wasteland to a vital, multiple-use coastal ecosystem.
Multiple use.
Well, things like the GLOMAS database, the Global Mangrove Database, an information system connecting experts and knowledge worldwide. And back in '92, based on his input, a survey across 9 countries helped establish a global network of mangrove genetic resource centers, basically protected areas to conserve genetic diversity.
That's a huge global footprint. Did his work spark similar change within India itself?
Oh, absolutely. India had mangrove management practices, sure, but the British era and even later saw a lot of clear felling, right up until the Forest Conservation Act of 1980 started to change things. Early restoration efforts weren't always successful, and often the blame fell, perhaps unfairly, on local communities. But Swaminathan's foundation, the MSSRF, started participatory research in the early 90s. And this was key. It showed that the main reason for degradation wasn't just locals using resources, but the massive biophysical changes caused by the clear felling itself. The whole hydrology and ecology was disrupted.
Okay, so understanding the root cause better. Did that lead to new methods?
It did. They developed what's called the hydroecological method for restoration, popularly known as the fishbone canal method. It involves creating channels to restore natural tidal flows. It was pilot tested successfully in several states and later recommended for wider adoption, evolving into joint mangrove management programs involving local communities.
And did this pay off in real terms? We hear about mangroves protecting coastlines.
Massively. The role mangroves played during the 1999 Odisha supercyclone and especially the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was undeniable.
Yeah.
Areas shielded by healthy mangroves suffered significantly less damage, less loss of life. That drove home their value like nothing else and really spurred large-scale restoration, not just in India, but globally.
So the proof was in the pudding, tragically.
Tragically, yes. But the positive impact is clear now. The latest India State of Forest report, ISFR 2023, shows India's mangrove cover is nearly 5,000 square kilometers, and it actually increased slightly even between 2019 and 2023.
That's incredible. It really shows how one person's focused vision, linking science, policy, and community, can genuinely change the world, or at least a critical part of its coastline. A real lesson there.
A powerful one.
All right, let's pivot now. From ecosystems to economics, but at a very personal ground level. This next piece comes from Bihar, looking at a deepening debt trap. It talks about people borrowing more from more sources, formal banks, microfinance, local money lenders, and getting caught in a really vicious cycle. What stands out from these stories?
It's deeply distressing, frankly. The scale is significant. Bihar has the highest share of households in India, about 18%, borrowing from non-institutional lenders, and a recent study suggested that even as formal borrowing might be shrinking slightly, informal borrowing is actually growing.
Wow, so the need isn't going away.
Not at all. And the stories illustrate why. Take Chandra Devi, 53, from the Musahar community. Very low income. She took a loan for her daughter's wedding. She thought the interest was 2%, but the slip apparently said 25%. Her husband can't work. Her son sends money when he can. It's an impossible situation.
25%. And it's often multiple loans, right? Not just one.
Exactly. That's the trap. Poonam Devi, 42, again, Musahar community. Loans for her son's illness, then her husband's accident. Different lenders, high interest rates, one was 28%. Family income is negligible. How do you make fortnightly payments on that?
You can't.
You really can't. Or Parvati Devi, 38. Her husband works elsewhere. She took 3 microfinance loans, over a lakh rupees in total, just to pay back a local moneylender for her daughter's wedding. Her monthly payments are huge, $7,000. It consumes almost everything. They're borrowing just to stay afloat or to cover basic life events like weddings or illness.
And the recovery process. The article paints a pretty brutal picture.
Brutal is the word. Women describe agents being threatening, abusive. Parvati Devi mentioned an agent harassing her all day. Meena Devi was reportedly told horrific things like, "Why don't you go beg? If you die, the loan's waived." Threats to sell their bodies. It's coercion.
Just awful. And taking belongings, too.
Yes. Agents threatening to take beds, cookers, gas cylinders. In one case, Samini Devi, whose husband had passed away, said an agent literally emptied her house, bed, cooker, cylinder, even her year's supply of wheat. She felt powerless to report it.
That's stripping someone of everything. It's no wonder people are fleeing.
It's happening. The report mentions 25 families fleeing just one village. Pawan Devi's family spent over a year working in Punjab to escape agents after taking loans for a wedding. They came back, and the agents were there again, even took her son's Aadhaar card. Think about that, taking someone's basic ID.
It's unbelievable. But surely there are rules, RBI regulations.
There are. The RBI put out detailed guidelines in 2022. Things like lenders must offer flexible repayment, the monthly burden shouldn't exceed 50% of income, clear definitions of what counts as harsh methods for recovery agents, like threats or harassing family.
So the rules exist on paper.
But the enforcement seems weak. Professor Jyoti Ghosh is quoted pointing out this implementation gap and also fundamental flaws in the microfinance model itself. The high interest rates, lack of monitoring on repayment methods, which kind of implicitly allows this pressure, this intimidation, even encouraging multiple loans.
And Bihar specifically lacks state-level rules.
That's a key point. Unlike states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, or Assam, which have specific laws to regulate money lenders and microfinance, Bihar currently doesn't. This leaves these extremely vulnerable households with very little protection or legal recourse when things go wrong.
So it's a system where financial inclusion, without strong safeguards and real enforcement, ends up trapping the very people it's supposed to help. A really stark situation.
Deeply concerning. It highlights the need for regulation that actually works on the ground.
Okay, for our final source, we're looking at a huge controversy surrounding the Great Nicobar mega project. We're talking about an Rs 81,000 crore development, transshipment terminal, airport, power plants, tourism. Massive scale. But the article alleges serious issues with the environmental clearance, suggesting scientists were pressured, reports were rushed. What's the core of this controversy?
The core allegation is one of, well, institutional coercion compromising scientific integrity. Sources suggest scientists faced immense pressure gag orders, impossible deadlines, a push for favorable reports. The Union Ministry of Home Affairs apparently monitored things very closely. And scientists from key institutions like the Wildlife Institute of India, WII, SACON, the Zoological Survey of India, CITESI, they reportedly had to sign non-disclosure agreements. This comes from RTI requests and emails. So right away, that raises red flags about the independence of the assessment.
Okay, so doubts about the process. What about the substance? What are the environmental stakes and how are they assessed?
The stakes are huge. The project involves clearing 130 square kilometers of pristine rainforest that's over 1 million trees. This is also the home of the Shampan and Nicobarese tribal communities. Their perspective seems to have been largely sidelined. Anstis Justin, a Nicobarese anthropologist, is quoted asking, "Do we destroy our places of worship? Because the forests are sacred to the Shampan."
1 million trees. And the assessments themselves.
They appear deeply flawed, according to this source. The WII did a rapid assessment just 6 days in April 2021. This completely missed the main nesting season, December-January, for the giant leatherback turtle in Galathea Bay, which is arguably its single most important nesting site globally. So they found very few nests, unsurprisingly.
Convenient timing, perhaps?
One might infer that. And the scientist who led that assessment, Dr. K. Sivakumar, later resigned from WII. He had apparently told Niti Aayog, the policy think tank, that the project was fundamentally bad for the environment and essentially said, we should forget about Great Nicobar if it goes ahead. He felt the biodiversity impacts were ignored.
That's a strong statement from the lead scientist. What about other wildlife?
The ZSI study from July 2021 claimed negligible environmental impact. It even suggested translocating endemic species like the Nicobar megapode and coconut crabs. But Sivakumar, who studied megapodes extensively, is quoted saying translocation is next to impossible for them because of their highly specific nesting behavior. They build these unique mounds.
Right, you can't just move a complex behavior. And coral reefs.
The ZSI report apparently called them scattered reefs and suggested translocation, but without much detail on how. A marine biologist, Rohan Arthur, described this as questionable and a slippery slope, basically asking if we can just treat complex ecosystems as interchangeable parts.
And the ZSI report went beyond just ecology.
Yes, intriguingly, it included sections on the project's strategic importance and socioeconomic benefits areas completely outside ZSI's scientific mandate and expertise. This further fuels concerns that the report wasn't purely objective science.
So, flawed science, potential coercion. What about the regulatory bodies that are supposed to check this? The EAC, the NBWL.
That's a critical point. Their job is to scrutinize these assessments independently, yet the Environmental Appraisal Committee, the EAC, reportedly accepted these reports seemingly without deep independent verification. This is despite the EAC chairman at the time, Deepak Apte, having previously expressed alarm about the project's sheer scale, calling its magnitude not just scary, but incomprehensible.
So the watchdogs didn't bark.
It appears not, according to this account. And compounding things, independent researchers, scientists not with WII or ZSI, now reportedly face restrictions. They're being asked for written assurances not to even travel to Great Nicobar. It effectively stifles outside scrutiny.
This paints a really concerning picture about the checks and balances. When huge development projects meet sensitive environments and indigenous rights, the integrity of the scientific and regulatory process is paramount. And this case raises serious doubts about that integrity.
It certainly does. It forces a hard look at how environmental clearances are granted, especially when strategic interests are high. The potential long-term costs, ecologically and socially, could be immense.
Thank you for listening. If today's deep dive gave you something useful, consider following us on Spotify so you're the first to hear the next one. You can give suggestions by contacting our Twitter handle given in the episode description. We are always eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.